Laut US- und deutschen Medienberichten soll die Spur der Terroranschläge auf die Nord Stream Pipelines zu einer pro-ukrainischen Gruppierung führen, die aus 2 Tauchern, 2 Tauchassistenten, einer Ärztin und dem Kapitän bestanden habe. Diese sollen denn den Sprengstoff an den Pipelines befestigt haben. Herr Ritter, Sie waren bei den US-Marines und kennen sich in der Welt von militärischen Operationen aus. Wie plausibel schätzen Sie diese neue Erklärung ein? According to US and German media reports, the trail of the terrorist attacks on the Nord Stream pipelines should lead to a pro-Ukrainian group consisting of 2 divers, 2 diving assistants, a doctor and the captain. They then allegedly attached the explosives to the pipelines. Mr. Ritter, you were in the US Marines and know your way around the world of military operations. In your book, how plausible is this new explanation?
It's not just that I have a military background. I have an intelligence background that has given me the opportunity to interface with the CIA's Special Activities Group. That's their covert paramilitary organization. And it's the CIA's Special Activities Group that would have been involved in supporting the American attack on German energy infrastructure, the explosive attack on the pipelines of the Nord Stream gas delivery system. This is just absurd in the extreme. First of all, I mean, it's out of a bad fiction novel. We're talking about diving at depths that are beyond that are supportable by an entity such as has been described. When Seymour Hersh heard about this, he laughed out loud. And then he said, "Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God," because even he couldn't believe the lunacy attached to this. I'm without words. This is such a weak story. This is as if it was going to be believed that a bunch of kindergartners were going to successfully climb Mount Everest on their own, traveling to the base camp, training themselves and making it to the top of Mount Everest and back without being detected. This is absurd in the extreme. Before people publish this, they should walk through the viability of the story being presented. How are you going to get 2 divers nearly 300 feet underwater? What was the equipment they were using? Was the yacht outfitted with specialized diving support equipment? Is there any evidence that this equipment was used on it? The explosives, they say they found traces of explosives. Be interesting to know where those traces led to. Explosives tend to have unique markers. What was the source of these explosives? Are these explosives of the sort that can be used underwater in highly saline conditions? We can just go on and on and on and on about the stupidity of this. And what nobody seems to acknowledge is that this is a hastily crafted story designed to divert attention away from the serious reporting done by Seymour Hersh. But the good news is, like most hastily assembled cover stories, it will collapse under a modicum of scrutiny, which is why I think at the end officials said, "Well, we're not saying this is absolutely true. This could be a cover story," because it is a cover.
Diese Berichte über eine ominöse pro-ukrainische Gruppierung als Drahtzieher der Terroranschläge kommen nun zu einer Zeit, wo sich die negativen Nachrichten aus Sicht Washingtons rund um den Krieg in der Ukraine zuletzt gehäuft haben. Ist das einfach nur Zufall? Those reports about an ominous pro-Ukrainian group as the mastermind of the terrorist attacks come at a time when negative news around the war in Ukraine have been piling up lately for Washington. Is this a coincidence?
I don't believe in coincidences when we're talking about the United States and Ukraine policy. It seems odd that a CIA cover story that has been built in conjunction with German intelligence. Understand this cover story could not happen without German intelligence. This is a hint to all of you German members of parliament. Subpoena your intelligence service. Bring them in. Find out what's going on. Get to the bottom of this, please. You owe it to the German people. You owe it to the Ukrainian people. You owe it to everybody in the world to find out what the truth is. Don't buy into this nonsense. And I'm confident there are certain individuals who have so far shown the courage to speak up, and they will continue to do so. And they will latch on to this particular lie and follow it through and hold those accountable for who have told this lie. But the fact that the liars, the CIA, the German intelligence services, are pointing a finger at Ukraine is a curious detail. Why? Why would you point a finger at Ukraine at this point in time, if not to start to create the conditions for what just has happened? I believe it was the German defense minister who has said, if this was Ukraine, this might impact the provision of weapons to Ukraine by NATO. And I think what we're beginning to look at is this is an excuse for the re-examination of continuing to support a losing cause, or should I say, a lost cause. Anybody who looks at what's going on in Ukraine understands we're looking at the final death throes of the Ukrainian military. And that the only way to potentially save the Ukrainian military is to pour new equipment that NATO does not have. So in order to justify the failure to deliver, because understanding that if left to just this narrative, the loss of Ukraine will be blamed on NATO's failure to deliver. So what they're doing now is creating the conditions to say it was Ukraine that committed suicide by attacking us, attacking our infrastructure. Therefore, we can no longer support this illegal government, this illegal activity. So I think that's the direction we're seeing. How long this will go, how this will develop, it's still a developing story, but it just seems curious that the CIA and the German intelligence, both of whom have been behind supporting the transfer of military equipment to Ukraine, have now concocted a cover story that points the finger at Ukraine. Even Seymour Hersh didn't point the finger at Ukraine.
Während der ukrainische Präsident Wladimir Zelensky weiterhin an der Verteidigung der Stadt Bachmut festhält, bereiten westliche Politiker und Medien die Öffentlichkeit auf den Fall der Stadt vor. US-Verteidigungsminister Lloyd Austin meinte sogar, dass Bachmut gar keine strategische, sondern lediglich eine symbolische Bedeutung habe. Wie sehen Sie das? While Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky remains committed to defending the city of Bakhmut, Western politicians and media are preparing the public for the fall of the city. U.S. Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin even said that Bakhmut had no strategic significance at all, but only a symbolic one. How do you see this?
It makes me question what General Austin learned while he was in the military. I would advise the general to study history and battles where one side suffered overwhelming losses, and then reconsider your notion that such a defeat has no strategic value. That, therefore, is saying that the Battle of Gettysburg, according to General Austin, had no strategic value, none whatsoever, despite the fact that General Lee's Army of Northern Virginia suffered overwhelming losses, had to withdraw, et cetera. According to General Austin, it's an insignificant piece of territory. These ridges and hills, north of the little town of Gettysburg. No significance at all, right, General Austin? You idiot. Of course it has significance. The Ukrainian government, Ukrainian army has poured the lifeblood of its military into the Bakhmut meat grinder, where they are dying in numbers that your own commanders, General Austin, Secretary Austin, General Cavoli, ask him, is NATO capable of imagining the scope and scale of the violence taking place at Bakhmut? And the answer is no. That means you're not trained to fight it, equipped to fight it, prepared to fight it. And that's probably why you don't understand it, General Austin, because you don't know that kind of war. You have never known that kind of war. You're unfamiliar with the level of violence taking place. And therefore, that allows you to issue ignorant statements such as the Battle of Bakhmut holds no strategic value, as if the Battle of Kursk held no strategic value, if the Battle of Moscow held no strategic value, as if any the Battle of Waterloo apparently held no strategic value. Isn't that correct, General Austin? Because it doesn't matter that Napoleon sacrificed his army on the fields of Waterloo, therefore creating the conditions for his ultimate defeat. No, according to General Austin, it doesn't matter that an army is losing its manpower in overwhelming numbers on a given piece of geography. General Austin's an idiot. His words should be treated as the words of an idiot.
Wie schätzen Sie die Möglichkeiten einer Frühlingsoffensive der ukrainischen Armee ein, nachdem tausende Soldaten ihre Ausbildung in Ländern wie Großbritannien und Deutschland abgeschlossen haben? How do you assess the possibilities of a spring offensive by the Ukrainian army after thousands of soldiers have completed their training in countries like the UK and Germany?
Well, on the one hand, a spring offensive by the Ukrainian army could be like the German Ardennes offensive in December of 1944. The Battle of the Bulge. Starts off impressive, ends with a decisive defeat. That's best case. Let's understand that. The best case that Ukraine could hope for is starting off impressive, ending with a decisive defeat. Or the Ukrainian offense could be such as that of Generals Vank and Steiner in the final moments of the Battle of Berlin. When Adolf Hitler was down in the bunker looking at the map, moving imaginary arrows across, launching offenses that couldn't happen because the troops don't exist. So we'll see which one it will be. Either way, it's not going to affect the overall outcome of this conflict, which, again, we just have to reflect on some basic math. This is a war that's defined by artillery. The Russians have overwhelming supremacy in artillery. They're not running out of ammunition. The Ukrainians have an inferior number of artillery tubes, and they are running out of ammunition. In fact, according to Jens Stoltenberg, the NATO Secretary General, Ukraine will run out of ammunition sometime this summer, and NATO is not in a position to replenish this. So if you're in a war that is defined by artillery and you run out of artillery ammunition, I think that means you lose the war. So that's what's going to happen to Ukraine. They're going to lose the war, and there's no imaginary offensive, counteroffensive that's going to save them.